All right, everybody, welcome to the show here, the clusterfuck. Let me know if that video intro was skipping because my system, it was just the whole theme song was going break up, break up, break up, break up, like it was terrible. So it could just be my computer and the internet here. Let me know if my voice is okay and everything's working. It's just a little bizarre. Okay, so far so good. Working good for everybody. That is good to know. Of course, on this show today, we're going to be talking all about I put it's a Luciferianism world just to put it all in under one umbrella, but we're going to go over first. We're going to talk about some hive mind, kind of a British elite hive mind and how it's controlled and go into this sort of rituals and people saying the abuse they've gone under. Then after the intermission, we're going to go over the sort of Lubavitch kind of empire and then compare it to the Sabbateans and who's going on and what's going on for world control. Looking at, I mean, we always ask who, what, where, and why. Why? Why? What's going on here? And of course, I mean, I could sum it up right now and say obviously it's about control, but there seems to be this really strange, devious, whispering energy, whispering voice. It's almost like the hive mind. Once the word goes out, everybody gets it, and it infects their mind. And everyone's like, well, who is it? Who's doing it? And I was watching an interview that Tucker Carlson did the other day with Owen Benjamin. And he was one of the first canceled for kind of speaking out against the trans surgery and the craziness of it. He was one of the first who got canceled. And he was like, I was always looking for who was it? Who was it? And he's like, I could never figure out who it was. And it seemed to be more like a spirit that infected everybody. It wasn't one person, it was like an infection of things. And so it brings us into looking at who are these people worshiping? What is this voice infecting? And, have we been warned about it? And we talk about infiltration because it seems to really want to infiltrate sound like, and get rid of the sort of Christian empire. That seems to be the goal. The one that came out of Rome, came out of that kind of Middle East way back under Rome. It seems to want to destroy that on all ends. And we will start off with a David Icke video in a little bit. He had this really interesting interview. I think he's called Professor Simon. David Icke was on Professor Simon's show, and apparently they had worked together in the BBC. So they were talking about some things like way back when David Icke used to work for the BBC. Before he had his, mind opening experiences and all that stuff, he worked for the BBC and he was being interviewed by this fellow who knew him way back then and some crazy stories, that they had to share. But this fellow, Professor Simon, talks about meeting one of these British elites. So we're going to go over that video and we'll start there in a little bit. But before I do, of course, wait for a few of you to stream in on this wonderful Sunday. I don't want to get started too soon. And just make sure that as soon as this starts, when you tap that thumbs up right away, it really revs up that algorithm to say, hey, let's recommend this to more people. So thumbs up the video and of course, subscribe. Channel member stuff. We're going to have some episodes coming out next week that are from the archives, pre-recorded. It's going to be a busy time. The show that I was about to do, I was going to do it this week on the Nazis versus the Freemasons. And I mean, they all tie into this stuff too, because they're all players in the big history of things. But I didn't have it concise enough to where I wanted it. So I'm putting it off till the end of the month. And next Sunday, we are doing Dracula because it's going to be, I believe it's Tuesday, is the anniversary of the novel. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then we have our Sunday show is gonna be on Thursday the following week. I believe that's on, I don't know. What day is that Thursday on? Is it the 27th? I think it's on the 27th. But I have a guest, and that's why we're doing the Sunday show on the Thursday because they can't come on Sunday. It's gonna be Jer and Niche in the house, and we're gonna be doing sorta like a clusterfuck roundtable on all these topics and everything that's going on in the world. So I think you guys will enjoy that. It's not this Thursday coming, the next Thursday, Jer and Niche are on. So about in a little less than a couple of weeks. So you guys will get it. We got a few of you streaming in here. Jonacide, Pyramid 7, Dorothy, Eric Merrick, Incognito. Welcome to the show. This Anyways, this whole idea about this show is kind of looking at like who is doing this stuff. Is it one person? No, because it's like a hive. And so maybe, I mean, maybe there's these queen bees all around, but maybe they're, I don't know, are they responding to something that is 27th is Wednesday? Yeah, so then it's the 28th. It's the 28th that we're having Jerry Niche on. And then the 30th, we'll try to do the show on Nazism versus Freemason. And yes, 28th. 28th will be the Sunday show. But I mean, I'll remind you guys, if you guys keep checking on the post tabs, I'll remind you guys. Sometimes you can't get, when you get a guest to come on, they can't always come when you do your live regularly weekly. So you have to make a little concession. And I like to do live because I like to have you guys do your questions and talk to them. So I will be posting, I'll make all the links. The links will be on the channel. It'll tell you the day and time. I will remind and post it on under the post on the YouTube channel. And remember, of course, you guys can become members too and support this show. I know money is so messed up. The gas is crazy here. So I understand if you guys can't afford to support, you can for as little as $2.99 a month to become a member. There's 3 different levels. You can also do super chats, super stickers. But if you can't do that, of course, thumbs up and share is where you can go. And that helps a lot. I mean, just making the thumbs up as soon as the show starts, like I said, helps the algorithm. So those are all the announcements out of the way. It was a busy weekend. I set up my raised garden beds, finally got it all together in my greenhouse. And so I'm collecting twigs. I got to do the layering. It's one of the things I think we're going to learn on the show by the end. What the kind of message is. Like, I kinda try, this is really loosely organized, this show this time. I didn't have a lot of time, but I try to kinda do it like an essay where we're like, thesis, this is going on, therefore, what can we do? What's the solution? Who has the real power? Does this stuff all tie into AI? Control. There's always control. The masses are dangerous. They're gross. They're plebs. They're disgusting. We have to call and control everything. And it's like, how can we? Who controls these guys at the top? Really, that's the good question. That's the question I had when Larry Ellison was talking about how AI was going to control everybody and make sure we were behaving. And I'm like, hey, Larry, who's making sure you're behaving? That's my question because I know I behave. I'm not running around like a psycho. And I know you guys probably cause a lot of the circumstances that causes crime. But yet Elon Musk behaves. Who's making sure that Larry Ellison behaves? I mean, if you would understand the stuff that Elon Musk does to women, he's such a misogynist. I've been watching Ashley St. Clair talking about this stuff in the court cases and how he had tons of women. He was trying to impregnate a whole bunch of women that were hot on X and get into their inbox. Like really, really, really crazy stuff. And by the way, X is probably some kind of military psyop thing that's tracking us. So I wouldn't do too much. I wouldn't give them your ID. I wouldn't do too much on X because Elon Musk is in. He's in with the deep state. He does contracts. He wouldn't be able to do SpaceX and stuff without it. So he's in with that. You bet, you bet. They just said, "Hey, Elon, we're gonna buy X, we're gonna take over it, and you're just gonna pretend that you're buying it." I think that's what happened there. Anyways, enough of that stuff. We got Lucas Williams in the house. Lucas is in the process of making a huge garden bed in a metal water trout. Right now, I have a layer of super large rocks about halfway. That's excellent. I've got some wooden ones, and I'm going to start layering it with twigs and stuff to create a drainage system. You gonna kinda layer it. You can't just throw a bunch of soil down. It's like when I seen those people doing all the protesting in 2020, and they were in that, what was that called, where they had, I can't even remember the names anymore. They had their little neighborhood portioned off in, like, Seattle or something like that. Anyways, they had some guys with machine guns monitoring it, and the mayor let them do it on purpose, and they were throwing down their cardboard and just throwing piles of dirt on the cardboard thinking they were gonna plant something. It was really funny. It was so funny. It was hilarious. I was like, "Yeah, there ain't nothing be growing in that, people. There ain't nothing be growing in that one." Which is like the lasagna method. Yeah, we're layering a lasagna, but it's a garden lasagna with twigs, and you can use hay, you can use rocks and different soils. Oh, nice. Dorothy is doing a ground pond with a waterfall. Nice, nice. Some Zen stuff going on there. But in the end, we're gonna end the show with Owen Benjamin, because he's got some really good advice. I actually recommend you guys go check out his interview with Tucker Carlson, because it was a good one. Chaz, that's what it was. It was Chaz. You guys remember Chaz? It was ridiculous. They were standing there going, "We're gonna have our own neighborhood. We're gonna have our own stuff and community." It's the right thinking, but they don't know what they're doing. And you don't organize it under, the whole pretense of you're gonna burn the city down. Like, you do it under, like, intelligence. You have to have intelligence, competent people coming together as a community, harmonious, growing vegetables, not because they're gonna flame torch the neighborhood and create crazy stuff, right? Chaz, that was it. Thank you. That was nuts. That was nuts. They had I mean, they're running around saying they're gonna create their own commune, and they had people bringing in, like, Rockstar energy drinks, and because Lucas says Chaz was only 40 minutes from him. Ooh, and I have nothing wrong with people saying, "Hey, let's do community gardens. Let's support each other," but this was not that. These people were like literally hired psychopaths to come in there. And when I seen people trying to lay that garden, just throw the soil directly on the cardboard in the middle of the field, I was like, "Wow." I'm like, "Okay, so you're gonna wait for 3 months for that lettuce to grow? Like, what are you doing?" Meanwhile, they're, like, eating energy bars, chips, and Rockstar energy drinks or Monster energy drinks. I was like, this is this is funny. What people don't realize is these kind of communities take a lot of energy. Growing your own food, it takes a lot of time and patience and education and intelligence and understanding nature. Yeah, it takes a lot of that. It can be done, but that that ain't the way. I think they said they were trying to grow sticks. I think they were gonna grow some Rockstar energy drinks, or maybe they thought those were gonna pop out of there or something. They I think you would be surprised how many people don't understand where food comes from and the process of everything. They probably don't know. Whereas, I don't know, 80 years ago or longer, people's families would have gardens or victory gardens or things like that. So they understood that you had to toil, work, farm. They had a better connection to that. And again, that it's not to have that connection is all about controlling the food supply, letting Bill Gates turn everything into, fake meat, infesting us with ticks so we're allergic to meat, crazy stuff like that. Crazy stuff like that. So, we're gonna get into this kinda deep end, and we're gonna get into it with Mr. Ike. will pop me over here. Now that I got a few of you in, and hopefully a few of you more will come in. And remember, click that thumbs up button. Let's share this video here. We're gonna talk about this. When I seen this, it was so disturbing. And before we get in there, they say, when they say a couple locations, I'll just pause it and remind you of what they are. But this was so bizarre that this man knew this, and basically a royal elite arrogantly came out and told him basically who they were and what they did and how Britain was run. Let's check this video out.
So while I was at Lime Grove,
okay, pause it. Pyramid says, I have a garden, but it's in a tent in the closet. Hey, that's fine. That's good stuff. Even if you have it in your windowsill, have a garden.
On one filming trip. So while I was at Lime Grove on one filming trip, my eyes were...
Okay, guys, we're going to have to pause this because for me, it is gapping out. So I'm going to have to go. I'm going to be right back. I'm here. I'm going to come in a different one. I'm going to come in a different one and see if refreshing it will help me, because I can't. There's no way I can do this if the internet's that bad. That is going to be a big problem. So hold on, guys. All right. Can you hear me? There we go. We're going to see if this works better, because I can't have it glitching out like that. It was popping like every second word was a gap. Let's see if that will help.
Eyes were wide open by a meeting with this member of the royal family,
right now.
basically. I really don't want to say who it was, because they quite scared me, actually. And in a brief moment between filming, she told me of her belief system, and she absolutely, as a utopian socialist Labour supporter, blew me off my chair by saying, first of all, describing a system of a hive, a system of Britain where there was elite queen bees that she was definitely said she was one of, and that everybody else was in this hive that needed occasional purging, and you needed to get rid of the gays, you needed to get rid of the pickaninnies, she called them, you needed to get rid of immigration, you needed to clear the hive of mental illness, and she...
Okay, so you guys can hear this because it is so bad for me. It's breaking up. I'm just going to let it play. I don't know how I'm going to do this show because I can't hear it. And I think there's a storm outside and they must be messing with me. Okay, so I'll continue to play this. But he's talking about this queen bee hive mind. And he'll mention a studio. It's called Lime Grove. This is a studio where they made TV series like Quatermass, stuff like that.
Much part of this. And I said, well, where does that all come from? She said, well, that's... I mean, she said, I don't believe in Christianity. I'm a pagan, and we, this elite, we come from a culture where we were put in place by an ancient alien, and that we are in charge, and we're actually physically different. What was quite interesting, and I wonder if is that she looked really odd. She had that kind of very strange inbred public, posh person face, and was a weird skin, and super tall. Now, I mean, at the time, I was just like, this is really odd. And then later on, reading your work, and I've often thought that it was, analogous, the lizard idea. But then researching back to Lime Grove, David Icke, the interesting work of Nigel Neal, who wrote Quatermass in the Pit, where in the film Quatermass in the Pit, he actually describes as a subtext this idea, this alien lands, it breeds with people, it makes a hive system, and he describes how the hive rises up and needs to be cleared by a small group of elite. And I went, what? This woman sat me down on her couch with a cup of tea and completely blatantly told me this was her belief system and this is how Britain worked.
And she was a member of the royal family. Why do you think she told you that then?
I think she liked me. And I specifically asked her. I was staying.
Okay, that was extremely painful for me. It was like, "Bit, bot, bit, bit, bot, blit, bot." Seriously. So my internet's obviously really bad here, so bear with me. Fortunately, I'd watched that clip many times that I really know what he's saying about this woman, saying that there is this sort of queen bee hive mind that is ruling Britain and always has, and they're very pagan. I'm not so sure what kind of pagan, and he clearly states she's a member of the elite. And I'm assuming that they're controlling and always have been controlling BBC and all those type of networks. You see them control all the TV. Um, it's that whole idea of creating the spectacle that we watch. They create all these shows, all this stuff. It pulls us away, pulls our attention, our energy into this spectacle so they can tell us what the narrative is. And now Quatermass Kimmy, he talks about that. Not one of my favorite shows. It's a British show, but it kind of has that creepy little theme to it. So it's almost like they're I don't know who the writers are or if they're in with these posh elites. It's almost like they want to tell you, ha ha ha, this is actually how we do it, but we're just going to present it as this fake science fiction show. And it got me thinking, like, okay, so everything's like a hive. I said to my husband, like, how do you get rid of a queen bee? Because but it shows you to me how things are really working in that for whatever reason, whoever is in charge and calls out the calls, the rest of us just pick up on it, act like it's real, we'll go out and defend. It's why all these people at TPUSA in their culture, they're like a hive. They're going to defend Erica, even if it means that they get thrown under the bus, they're just out there to defend Erica Kirk or whatever is the structure. They're like the attack bees. And then it happens in different groups. I mean, I'm watching there are podcasts out there right now that are solely streaming and they talk about Candace Owens and Erica Kirk and Charlie Kirk and what Candace said and what this person said. Then they'll bring on the sketchy person and then they'll try expose Candace or they'll be for Candace. It's like they create their own little speculative, like their own little crazy world where it's like watching a soap opera. And what it's interesting that they describe this as a hive mind and a bee, like the queen bee. And there's all these people that whether they're real or not, like, and I mean, like, whether like it's what I mean is for the bee, it's biological, but I don't know if it's biological for us. I think it's a lot of brainwashing and controlling of narratives that make us defend it and we get emotionally attached to it. And it sort of ties into our survival, but yet it's our demise. It's really bizarre, that sort of concept. And I found an article on it. Um Hive mind, of course, he says, is the collective mental activity that is expressed in the complex, coordinated behavior of a colony of social insects. Okay. And of course, he reminds us that the beehive is found in Mesa Beehive all over Utah. That is literally on the state flag, I believe, because they literally refer to you in Utah as like worker bees. The bee is supposed to be the symbol of wisdom, collecting pollen from the flowers. So again, the elites take these sort of naturally existing things and kind of turn it into their twisted concept to control mankind, right? It's happening again. So he goes on to say, hmm, that it's like a group think a psychological phenomena that occurs within a group of people in which the desire for harmony or conformity in the group results in an irrational or dysfunctional decision-making outcome. And that's what you're seeing here. They say we want harmony. We want this to happen, but because they're in this hive mind controlled by somebody who doesn't have the best intentions, they end up making irrational decisions. Like for people who are supporting Trump right now, they want it to make America great. They want it um, to be better financial. They want it no wars. And look at what they're supporting now, and they're getting crazy about. They're supporting wars. They're supporting data centers. They're supporting Palantir, Police State, JD Vance, because they're pulled into a fake spectacle and not a reality. And they end up becoming delusional and crazy in this pursuit for harmony. My body wants to sneeze. It wants to sneeze and it's gonna sneeze. I'm just like, when are you gonna sneeze? But it's this hive thing that's going on that I find really disturbing, actually. Um, the British elites searching for the hive mind for queen bees. So I don't know how you handle that. How do you handle people who are in the hive mind? And that's what they want to make the planet. That would be Neuralink. That would be that it makes sense the way they're designing this, like a giant hive. Like you see it in Star Trek films with these sort of cyborgs. They're but I don't think the beehive is the same thing. I think they're looking at the beehive and seeing, wow, the queen bee controls everything. That's how we're going to do things. We're going to do things that way. But theirs is like this twisted cyborg AI crazy hive mind where the outcome is basically to destroy the environment, destroy the world, enslave people. And remember, in the video, she clearly tells him that every once in a while we have to call the hive. We have to kill some hive people. We have to take out some, get rid of immigrants. We have to um, take down the population if we want to maintain control. So it's interesting that he was learning this decades and decades ago. She's telling him this stuff with and it's clear they have the Christianity is something they're just like, yeah, whatever, that's for you guys. We do these occult books. But as we're going to see as we get into this and we get into this topic of Luciferianism all over the world, that it's kind of a trap and it's really empty and soulless. And they themselves, these elite people who believe this, they are educated to believe that. They are programmed themselves to believe that they are special. They're from some kind of alien being that put them here. They're programmed to believe that. Whether or not their genes are different, I don't know. Are they genetically different? I don't know. I've never seen a test. Are they looking for this genetic difference? I don't know. They could be. But whether or not they are, they believe that and they're taught that and they behave that way and they act that way. And he even says, Professor Simon even says, she looked a little weird and alien-esque. Any guess in the audience who the elite queen bee was? Because she was clearly part of the royal family. Who do you think would have been near Lime Studio, whatever it's called, working in the BBC, that would have been part of the elite? Does anybody have a guess? I don't know. I'm kind of stupid. I was wondering, like, I wonder who that was, because he wouldn't say her name because he said he was scared, and I can't say I blame him. But I wonder who it was. Is it really like Princess Margaret? Princess Anne? Like, who could it be? Would like I don't know. Was it somebody that exists that we don't even know? Yeah, it's strange stuff, guys. Strange stuff. But if you have an idea, shout it out in the comment who you think that elite queen bee was. Because I tell you guys, if that is how they view us, and they don't view us in the Christian way, that we're to support each other, benevolent, that a loving God, that we're all. Incognito says it's also a symbolism of modern monarchy, the beehive. Yeah, modern monarchy. not Christian monarchy. Remember, that's modern monarchy. Very crazy stuff, and she lays it out for you. So, was it infiltrated at some point? I mean, I've got videos of Candace, which we'll get in. We'll show the Candace video before the break, and then we'll get into Sabbateans and the Lubavitch stuff, and see what the difference is and who's playing what in today's world, and maybe even what can you do about it? Do they have the power? Because they clearly have a power to control our minds. And remember one time I was talking about that fellow that was trying to contact me through a dating site way back when I first divorced, and he was this British fellow. I believe he was kind of part of this thing because the guy had this like sneak, you could tell there's something sneaky, but he had like a control, an authoritative control. They have this energy where if you're really weak, they can intimidate you and control you. I wouldn't have wanted to be near him. Of course, I basically told him to hit rocks and get lost because he was that creepy. But I can't even repeat some of the things I learned over. He would call every few months, and I would just be like, oh God, it's this guy again. I can't. I'm not even gonna repeat right now what he would say because I started to be like, okay, this man's a psychopath. Like this guy is crazy. But you could tell he was posh. He was elite. He was educated at Eton. He was part of the elite, and you could tell they had some kind of twisted upbringing. That's why I said, like, she's bred that way. She's bred to believe this stuff. And you could also tell by him that the women really control a lot with them. Napoleon had golden bees as part of his regalia. Yeah. There's a lot of symbolism in that. For us, we might see it as wisdom, but that for them, they're like, here's our colony. We control this. And so maybe men aren't really, maybe men used to control things. I don't know, but I have a feeling up in these royal families, they're not doing much controlling lately. It seems like there's some queen bees that are calling the shots secretly behind, and they're being protected, according to what this woman says. And they don't follow Christianity, they follow old pagan rules. So that tells me they're from some kind of family line, some kind of lineage that's been around for a while. So it's not like we're dealing with, I wouldn't even say we're dealing with a sort of British paganism. We might be dealing with something else that's been around for a long time. So we're going to switch to looking at some Facebook content because I've got some video footage about people talking about satanic abuse amongst elites. And David Icke himself, when he was talking in that interview, he said that, at first when he started to do this 35, 40 years ago, that he really was going to do lectures and talking about all this stuff to empty rooms. And when he went to the United States and started to, rent places and talk about it, people started coming up to him like synchronicity, where they would tell him things. They would say, hey, like I was ritually abused. This stuff happened to me when I was younger. And you now see this all over the place regularly. But David was one of the early ones who was talking to people. It's interesting that he got it from the United States more than Britain. That doesn't mean that it didn't happen in Britain, but obviously America was some hub of this kind of abuse. So I thought it would be worthwhile to kind of look into some people's stories. So, yeah. That's not the queen. That's not the queen bee we're talking about. I'm just looking at Dorothy's comment. That's not the queen. We're not talking about that queen bee. We're not talking. We're talking about elite people, women in the royal family, who are practicing Luciferian, creepy magic, mind control, which would explain why she was at the BBC. Explain it 100%. All right. Let's pop over here. Oh, it's still keeping the other screen. So let's remove that. So I'm down here. We're going to look over here because I want to look at some of these stories about abuse And then you can see it's there and how it infiltrates into society, how, what they believe. And we'll get in that with Sabbatean, because I think that influences a lot of these modern royalties, this sort of Frankist, Sabbatean kind of Kabbalah, mysticism, and how they view things on achieving enlightenment. It's not about God and being good and creating goodness in the land. It's about this enlightenment, and they view it, it's like a total inversion of Christianity, 100% total inversion. So let's check it out. They said The Devil Worshippers aired May 16th, 1985 on ABC News. So this one was actually on the news. And we got a creepy bunny in the corner. Wow. They always have the volume turned off on Facebook automatically. It's kind of annoying, but let's start this over again.
Is cannibalism part of the ritual?
The children have spoken about this in almost every instance. Also, human feces, or drinking the urine, or drinking human blood.
That's part of the ritual.
Right.
I have an old 3-inch scar here on my wrist where my friends used to cut.
Yet the tales that were told to us in interviews conducted across the country were later verified by authorities, who say there are consistent telltale clues. And they provide a checklist of 6 satanic practices to look for. For example, being placed inside a coffin. It's an experience that many children are describing.
Well, the adults would dig up the caskets from the graveyards, and all the members, including the children, were made to lay in the remains of whatever was in the casket.
Get in a casket with a decomposed body.
Right, and then the casket was closed, and they would be lowered into the ground.
Because one of the primary focuses of these people is death.
Another indicator, satanic paraphernalia. In every case, the children talk about precisely the same setting.
They described a satanic goat's head being on the wall over the table. They described a lot of candles. And they described...
Colors mean anything?
Yeah, the red ones would be used for some types of sexual rituals, people who are doing sexual magic. This would be used for ordinary ceremonies and also for ceremonies where you'd be throwing a curse on someone.
I hope you guys can hear this, because my internet is just brutal. It's skipping all over the place. Good thing it's got it's got the text in there. But this idea of ritually abusing children, and it doesn't just fall short of other people's children. They do it to their own children. They ritually abuse their own children. It's part of creating, like I said, it's part of creating these slaves. Abuse is part of adhering you to slavery. And I know it doesn't make sense, but this fellow who called me, that's one of the things he says. Well, you have to beat them. You have to beat your slaves. You have to do stuff like that, because they have to view you as the master, and they have to be attached to you and know the pain. Like, you have to reinforce it negatively. And I remember thinking, wow, this is stupid, psychotic. Like, and it doesn't have to be this way. You can have positive reinforcement and compassion, right? Like, it doesn't have to be this way, but it is this way because we have dysfunction and torture at every level going on, and it's coming right from the top down. There's, all I don't want to blame elite people for all problems, but I'm going to say that if they're selling drugs, into the system and making drug addicts, then they're creating a lot of problems that they could alleviate. If we are constantly struggling and starving, then they're creating all these problems that they could easily alleviate by making things stable, but they choose not to. And it's a choice of control. It's a controlling the food. Go look at cults. These are one of the elements that they do is they control food, how you eat, when you can eat, how much you can eat. We've got this system that's doing the same thing. It's like messing up the pricing, people have to keep working. They're exhausted. Now they can hardly afford groceries. It's more debt. It's more slavery. Debt equals slavery. And this stuff is just, it's the tip of the iceberg with torture. This is deeper level, twisted level. It is literally how you break apart the person and their personality to shape something into how you want it to be. Or in the case of some rituals, it's like how they get their energy. The loosh. Um, they get the loosh, they get the adrenochrome, so it goes allegedly, they get all this energy in the blood in the sacrifice, and they do it from pain. And so they're either getting the blood energy that they need from people in their weird sacrifices, or they are controlling people, creating and forming a new hive mind through this kind of satanic torture. And they're doing offerings to their gods. They're literally pleasing some kind of god that presents unto them power, presents unto them this, uh, not just power, money, success. I mean, and then of course they offer it to everybody else. It's this really twisted version of life that the Bible and Christianity always warns you against. I mean, we're always warned against stuff like this, but it's so interesting how they can make you think you're not doing this stuff, that it's a good thing, how they can invert it. Anyways, we'll keep playing this till the end, even though it's driving me crazy because my internet's bad, but here we go.
Another indicator, kidnapping. In almost every case, the children have talked about children who were snatched and later sacrificed.
They were taught to aid in the kidnapping of children. What they would do is the kids would go and play with the children and then tell them that they were either going to go to a party or that there was some toys or whatever, and get them so they weren't on the move, and then her father and other members would grab the kids.
Sir, I question 2 million children missing in the United States, knowing that many of those are not runaways and are so young that they couldn't run away anyway.
Number 4, sexual abuse aimed at destroying faith in God. It
seems to go hand in hand.
The belief system within a child, to make a child turn against what they believe in terms of who they are, of who God is, and to desecrate all manner of flesh, all manner of church institution, all manner of sign and symbol that a child could in any way be attached to.
Cannibalism. It's difficult to believe, but in every case we examined, children described it.
The hearts were cut out, and the children were made to chew pieces of these children's hearts, pieces of their flesh.
Is cannibalism part of the ritual?
Let's pause that.
So this movie centers around Drew Barrymore's character, Josie Geller, who is a plain, boring, beige Becky, nobody.
I'm still playing. I gotta cancel that out. Sorry, something was still playing in the background. My internet, I don't know why it's so bad. It says I've got top-notch internet, but they are interrupting this one for me like crazy. So they're not doing it. They're not driving crazy. We're going to keep going through this. We've got a few more scenes to look at, but it's that trauma. Like we have people saying, hey, Steve Wills, welcome to the room, and welcome, Jilly Bean Live. They're talking about this trauma bonding. Incognito said it. Jilly Bean said it. They're talking about the trauma bond. This happens in all manners. This isn't just elites. Look, a narcissist in a relationship do it. They get you to like them, trust them, tell you all their stuff. Scientology does it. We are totally going to have to talk about Scientology. We're totally going to have to talk about that at some point because it's twisted. It's so twisted, but they all have these ways to get you in, to trust them, to open and attach, and then they slowly start this programming and abuse, and then they'll give you some more sympathy in between it, and they'll go back and forth so that the original bond that normal healthy humans try to bond with each other, they're mixing that with torture, with humiliation, with starvation, and then they're saying it's for you, it's for the best, it's for this, and like you said, they're programming these children against everything that's good, everything that they believe in, so that eventually they become people who do this to other children. It is a disease. It kind of hands-on. They're not just doing it in terms of relationship, they're doing it in terms of a ritual. And the idea, I guess, is that they are doing it to appease some kind of god that requests this kind of sacrifice, that requests this kind of behavior. This is, I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know enough about bees, but I don't think bees, queen bees in real beehives, sit there and run rituals and sacrifice. I don't know, she might chop a bee's head off or something once in a while, but I'm pretty sure, it's about everyone doing together to create the honey. And you hear communists and everyone talk about that, but when they talk about it, there's always going to be a control. It's not harmoniously people creating a system together so everybody fairly gets something and we're all, doing well. It's for the communists, it's all about control. And remember, that elite British woman from the royal family was totally a socialist. She was all into these kind of things because they're all created to control, even communism. At the root of them, you're going to find a banker, you're going to find an elite, you're going to find someone in the royal family. Look at what King Charles supports. Do you think he supports that because he wants everyone to be equally taken care of? I doubt it, because if he did, he'd be giving up some of his money if he wanted that, wouldn't he? Yeah, he would be, but he's not going to, so that's not going to happen. Bloodlines, yeah, and I'm sure they want particular bloodlines. So we're going to look at another video here, and I think pretty quick we're going to take a break after that, and then we're going to get into the Candace videos, the Sabbatians, the Lubavitch, that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about the difference between them and how they're kind of running our world with this idea, with this concept. The biggest concept that I can get out to you guys, there's a couple of them, but there's this concept of that there's no redemption, that they do things invertedly because they believe that if they create as much pain and they go to depravity, they go to the depths of depravity, that is how they experience enlightenment. And you can find that in Aleister Crowley, the Kabbalah, in the Sabbatians, with the Lubavitch. I'm not sure. They believe that they're chosen ones, of course, but they don't have a redemption kind of status up there like Christianity does. And so, but you can find this sort of inversion and control and creating basically a hell on earth to achieve enlightenment. Does that make sense? I don't know. They always present it as a utopia, but it's always a hell on earth. And that's because they believe that this is how you become enlightened. And I'm not sure where this came from or why somebody thought this. Like, where was that person who thought, hey, if I just take the most innocent thing and torture it and kill it and do all these horrible things and torture myself and my children, I'll experience enlightenment. It had to be a psychopath, had to be a sadist, had to be some bad person dropped on their head when they were a baby. Like, seriously, it's so crazy. It's just absolutely twisted how anyone can come to that conclusion about life. But like I said, I'm guess they're taught that. So let's see if we can find. Oh, I'm gonna have to open my Facebook up again, guys, because we are gonna go there. Yep. To my saved. I had another video that I wanted to look at. Third degree Mason joined the church. I don't think that was it. I don't think that's the one I wanted. Oh, let's see. Yeah, here it is. It's only 53 seconds long, so it's not a long one. And I will. Sharing is not allowed. It's telling me I can't share the screen. I most certainly can. Okay, hopefully one day my internet starts working. But here's this Russ Dizdar, The Black Awakening, Satanic Ritual Abuse, and Multiple Personality Disorders. And that's the point, is to create multiple personalities that you can trigger that are useful. as well, especially to agencies. Here we go.
Does SRA exist? And if so, how prevalent is it in society today?
Yeah, satanic ritual abuse, and I can say it this way, it not only exists, satanic ritual abuse is inseparably connected to multiple personality disorder. All of society knows since the late 70s, and even DSM-3, DSM-4, those are the diagnostic manuals for psychology. They all know that all of a sudden, multiplicity started showing up everywhere. They call it DID now. So the secular world, they're registering, millions coming in for diagnosis on that. Now, they don't know how to handle the satanic side. So I'm going to tell you just straight out, after 38 years of dealing with it, not only is SRA real here in the United States, that there are millions of victims by design, that there's now generations of them. We deal with 65 and 70-year-olds. They're the first generation. Then we go to 40-year-olds and 20-year-olds. I got 8-year-olds and 12-year-olds we're dealing with. Because if you don't stop this somewhere, they do it to the next generation. That's by design. That's the way it's supposed to be for them.
Does SRA exist? And if so?
So, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Satanic abuse by design, creating tons of multiple personality disordered people. That would be, if they're 65, 70, that would start it with a lot of boomers, post World War II, that they are just creating a society of damaged people. And a society of damaged people will do what? Well, they won't fight back. They're easier to control. They will, and I suspect highly, guys, that they, at some point, they don't have to abuse people physically anymore. They can abuse these people. Some of these people might even be the rock stars that we see out there. Now they don't have to abuse everyone. They can put it out there in songs. Listen to some of your music. Listen to the words. I can't tell you how many times I've gone back and listened to music and thought, wow, that sounds like someone with borderline personality disorder. Like they're teaching us weird things about love. And we think that when we watch these movies, when we watch this stuff, when we experience these things, that it's fictional. That's our conscious mind going, well, it's just fictional. But our subconscious, and this is what they know, our subconscious mind can't tell the difference when it's watching a movie. It will absorb it as, okay, this is real. And it absorbs it into itself. And I think that it's like a hive mind. It spreads to us. So that if we're all being controlled, we're pulled into this spectacle of a world. And I think a lot of these people, it only takes a couple of these personality disordered, twisted children to infect hundreds of others. So they only need so many. Yeah, and Jilly Bean Live said the brain is like a computer and trauma, it fragments it to program. Yeah. Well, I think the results are different. I mean, the computer, I don't think they're exactly like, but I get the concept that you're saying. Like they fragment the mind with the abuse so that you can then reprogram them. But I don't think they can control it, or at least early on, that they couldn't control it as well as they would like to. Because sometimes it will be triggered and fragmented. Like they can't control all the criteria in the environment, right? And I think maybe now, like with this Neuralink stuff and the things that they want to put in our mind, they might have a better idea about control. And they're like, well, if we can just attach them all to this little hive Neuralink mind, well, we've got it. We've got it. We'll outdo the humans. Blackmail is the name of the game with devices, create partitions. Yeah, of course, there's all these elements to it, whether it's blackmail, but I think a lot of it is to control them and control the population. And there's probably sadists involved in this, offering it to whatever they worship. I mean, this is kind of an view of things, so we're not specifically, but if we could just talk about, I don't know, someone like that Aquinas guy that's in the military, bet you he's a sadist. Look at someone like Erica Kirk. You think she's been MK Ultra? Watch her talk. She looks like a psychopath. There's nothing there. You can tell when she's saying the words that she's never felt the feelings before. That's why smart people don't are queuing into this going, there's something wrong here, because there's a psychopath saying the words, pretending that they are upset that Charlie's dead, not a real person. A real person wouldn't have done any of the stuff. Yeah, Jilly Bean saying Michael Aquino. That's him. Like, I bet you he's a little twisted. I mean, weird thing to have a Satanist working in your military bases. A little bizarre. So who are they serving? Kirby says, welcome, Kirby. I think Satan exists. Sure. Well, certainly it does seem so. And even if he didn't, say there wasn't a Satan, these guys are creating a world where there is. They believe it, so they literally speak it into being. They get something out of nothing. I speak it, therefore it is. You hear that kind of stuff, in biblical text, where it's like you speak it into being. And so if there wasn't a Satan, there certainly is now, because they've spoken into being so many times. They've put him in film and movies and in our minds, that it exists for sure. Absolutely. They've spoken Satan into existence. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be talking about this. Yeah, it's so crazy. All right. Do we have another video for you guys? I want to end with a Candace video before intermission. We're going to take intermission. We're going to do the Candace video. She did this really wonderful interview with this girl. Oh no, I can't remember her channel name. It's slipping me by. Anyways, they were talking about the Sabbateans and all the crazy stuff. And it's going to kind of lead us into the second half, where we get into this, where we're talking less about the specific satanic rituals. We discuss the hive mind. We discuss the royal elites, that these sort of queen bees, this kind of pushes us into this different element of it. And these people who really do worship some kind of weird Luciferian, they use Kabbalah. It kind of shows you the underlings of magic that they use. And I think that many of them might do some variation of this Kabbalah. Okay, so it's not all the same, but they use words like Aleister Crowley will say, your will it to be, whereas L. Ron Hubbard will try to be trickier and make it sound pretty, and he will say, Ron L. Hubbard will say intention instead of will it to be. What's the intention? They'll make it sound more new age, but they all mean this: I'm forcing my will on people. I am not doing people. I'm for will on people to get my way. And that's what a lot of people miss, is that there's a lot of people out there who want to do magic, not to heal the world and make it a better place, but to force their will on people and get their way and take their money and take their energy. So we're going to go back to the Candace video. And we're going to play that. It's probably going to be all messed up for me because my internet is being crap, but as long as it works for you guys, and then we're going to do an intermission and we're going to come back and talk about that kind of Lubavitch stuff and some solutions. Solutions are good. So let's listen to Candace.
And you got to go backwards to why this group of people who are now in Israel were being kicked out of so many nations. And I've been begging people who are studious and Jewish to look into this massive movement where they had a false messiah named Jacob Frank. Then this gets into Sabbatianism and Frankism. That is the key to everything. This is not Judaism at all. It's mystic Judaism, if you will. If you could say it's Jewish mystical tradition. Get into what Sigmund Freud was. This is where you're getting their initiation rites, the harming of children. This is not. It's mysticism. Full stop. And studying Sabbatianism and Frankism made me understand what was happening. You had Frankists who were at war, by the way, with Jews. no one wants to speak about this. This is actually what was happening in Poland. They were at war with the Jews because they said this is an old philosophy, the Torah, we don't want to follow the old law. And in comes this radical Jacob Frank. And once you begin looking into Jacob Frank, you will fully understand the picture. I believe, and with a lot of evidence, that Theodore Herzl was himself a Frankist. I don't believe his children committed suicide. He likely raped them, is what my research shows me, because through Sigmund Freud sent him help for one of his daughters or whatever on how to deal with her. But what Sigmund Freud was doing, and which has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, his contribution was gaslighting kids who were actually being raped by their parents. Okay. And this was a part of the Frankist ceremonial rites, like to initiate, you had to show yourself that you could violate the law. It's a form of Gnosticism, right? You have to plunge yourself and show yourself that everything is a figment. There's no such a thing as like good and evil. So you have to plunge yourself into the depths, and then they believe that from unholiness, holiness will arise. And if that sounds crazy to you and new to you, you should look into Jacob Frank. None of this is made up. This is all very real. There's no doubt that I'm talking about Sigmund Freud, practiced Sabbatianism. So when I see what is happening, I believe that these Frankists have been masquerading as Jews. They've mixed in amongst Jews for a very long time. Infiltrations happen. I want to be clear. They also infiltrated the Catholic Church. Jacob Frank mass converted when they were warring with the Jews, the Torah Jews in Poland. They said, "Oh, protect us from the Jews. We'll convert to Christianity." And the bishop at that time mass converted a bunch of the Frankists.
Okay. So, I hope you guys could hear that properly, because I couldn't. Reminder, I'm going through hell for you guys in this choppy thing. There's some kind of internet issue. So we're going to take a little bit of break, and you can kind of mull around Candace's worlds about this infiltration. And she goes to that place where she talks about the depravity that they seek to achieve and how they infiltrate and go after their own children, and that they cover each other up, and they're this kind of hive network again. And she even admits, Catholics, look at how they infiltrated the Catholic Church. A lot of Jewish people didn't like them. They have infiltrated Zionism, and we're going to go through these different elements when we come back, and we're going to look at the CH.Lubavitch, because the CH.Lubavitch, a lot of people think that's who Trump is perpetuating, that he's kind of one of those now, because they are in control over in the is not real country, if you know what I mean. We will get there, but I'm going to take a little break here. We got some little tunes for you, and I will be right back, and we will continue part 2 in about 7 minutes, guys. All right, everybody. I think my issue might actually be my headphones and not my internet, which means that I will be getting a new pair pretty soon if they're that bad that they're cracking up. Yeah, I think these things definitely have a shelf life. So we'll find out sooner or later when I plug in a video or we go look at some stuff. But we are back, and I see a few of you have still stayed around. Hopefully, more of you will come back and check out what we have to say in part 2. But we are going to get into the Sabbatine. You heard her talk about the Sabbatine, Francis. You heard her even talk, and by her I mean Candace, talk about how Freud was a Sabbatean. And we talked about the elites and the hive mind and the beehive and the abuse and them pulling us into the world, pulling us into the spectacle to keep us engaged in their narrative and how the world works. And of course, it pulls you away from the traditional narrative of goodness and do good unto others and all of that stuff. And we're all, I believe it was Jilly being live saying we were all sold out, but we're all kind of wrapped in this world, and it's so invasive and everything, it can be hard to get out. But of course, I'm going to present some kind of hope, because despair is the worst thing. Never despair, right? We're not supposed to despair. Doesn't it say that in the Bible? Like, don't despair, because you pass it on and you give it to other people. So we're not going to despair on this show. That's not what this is about. It's observing, not absorbing. And I understand that's hard to do for all of us. So I don't know if the elites are an alien race, but there's certainly some crazy theology going on in all of the way that they're thinking. So this idea of enslavement, harnessing your intention to create reality. And it's a reality that leads us all to control and to hell. And they kind of present it, though, don't they, as this technology. It's modern, it's good, you're free, you are above God. Look at the power we have with this technology. They kind of present it that way, but really it becomes a trap. They're kind of like our pimp, right? Or drug dealer. They present it in this good way that it will help us, but yet at the same time it's meant to spy on us, control us, torture, abuse, experimentation, all that kind of nonsensicalness. And so that brings us to the root of it. And there's two different things. If you hadn't noticed, I kind of put this sort of Mosaic flag kind of on the show titles. It is the flag of that sort of Chabad-Lubavitch rabbi. It was designed in 1994 with a crown and that sort of Hebrew writing on it. Rebbe Menachem Mendel Schneerson. He's supposed to be the Messiah, the coming Messiah. The flag's purpose is to raise awareness of the coming Moshiach, which is a Messiah. And that is kind of the level here where we get to all these people who believe there's this Messiah coming. And of course, Christians are like, no, he's already come. He's already come. You missed the boat. You kind of got to repent on that one. You missed the boat. And that is, I think, why they hate Jesus, is because we say, well, no, he's already been here. And they're like, no. No. And I always thought the Messiah was supposed to be good. And Christians are saying he's already been here. Like, well, what are you talking about? And I think that's why they get enraged by it. Jilly Bean said, opposite Christianity, they absolutely hate Jesus. And above 33rd degree Masons must break 1, 2, 3, 6, and 9 of the 10 Commandments. Interesting. I think they absolutely hate him because it's interesting how you could present something good and someone who's calling out all your weaknesses and saying, hey, this is bad, you're not doing it to the book, and you hate that person. And I think it's because he's kind of reflecting all their corruption. And that would enrage a narcissist, is for you to hold up the mirror, reflect, and make them look at themselves. That would absolutely enrage a narcissist. And where should we start off? Should we go in? I think we should go and do a comparison, because a lot of people are like, well, what's a Sabbatean? What's the Lubavitch? What are you talking about? So the Chabad-Lubavitch, these are two different things, because we got Sabbatai Zevi. He's the Sabbath founder, is the Sabbatean. And then we got this sort of Lubavitch thing who denies the Sabbateans. So it gets convoluted, but there are two things that operate in this sort of mystic Judaism. And I think traditional Orthodox Jews don't acknowledge any of it. It's like this splintering of craziness, of narcissism, of people who are trying to control everything. But the Chabads are, it's what you have your Hasidic Jews. The Chabad-Lubavitch is a movement within Hasidic Judaism, and it's one of the largest Jewish outreach organizations in the world. It's known for its active global presence. The movement focuses on engaging with Jews of all backgrounds and levels of observance to help them connect with their heritage. Chabad is supposed to mean wisdom. Banai for knowledge, and Dat, or Banai is comprehension, and Dat is knowledge. It reflects the movement's philosophy. But the movement was led by 7 successful spiritual leaders. The most recent was the Rabbi Menachem M. Schneerson. He passed away in 1994. And they are tied into what's happening in Israel right now. So you could see them as some very bad people. They are saying, oh, we just want people to learn, the Torah, and we want them to observe things, but they would clearly not like Christianity. And we got a couple of videos to go over, so you can see that they infiltrate things. They'll even say they're Christian when they're not, and their goal is to infiltrate Christianity. She just talked about that the Sabbateans infiltrated Christianity, but so do these type of people. So do these Chabad-Lubavitch. So I'm going to play a video here for you guys that explains it a lot better than I can. Yeah, I think it was my headphones, because I think I can hear it now. My goodness. So check this one out. This is New York City. The BBC recorded this documentary, guys, in New York City before 9/11. So it's going to be a little spooky.
CH.Lubavitch wishing you a good Shabbos. Don't forget to light your candles tonight at 6:33. The holiday of Sukkot is coming up on Sunday, September.
I just want to pause and note how we control people is also these same techniques that they have in media, repeating it, putting it on radio, adhering people to do everything at the same time, because and they know that um there's this core element to human beings that want to stay in with other people. They want to be with a group because they don't want to be abandoned, because that could mean death. Okay, you into Moloch at all, girl? No. We like owls on the show, and so this is the guy right here is the example. This guy right here is an example of what I talk about on the show. Is you've been indoctrinated by the elite so much because they worship some kind of Moloch thing that you can't even appreciate a real owl. That people would say, hey, owls are beautiful. You can't do that because you've been indoctrinated to believe that everything is about Moloch. So we're gonna be putting this guy in a timeout for being retarded. All right, so let's continue this video, but you can see them even in those days, they're announcing to people, this is the network, we're all connected, we do things at this time, we do this at this time. You can see this kind of mind control lightly happening in this light level, and we do it as well. It's done, but the modern empire that we have right now is not a Western Christian empire at all. There's nothing about it that really resembles it in the tradition that you would have it.
Candle lighting time for the holiday of Sukkot is at 6:30. This is CH.Lubavitch wishing you a good Shabbos and a happy holiday.
In New York City, 20,000 Hasidic Jews still keep traditions which have remained unaltered for centuries. They are called the Lubavitch Chabad. The Lubavitch believe that they have the answer to the question, what is a Jew? Or more precisely, what does God expect of a Jew? God expects that a Jew should be someone who sticks rigidly to orthodox practices and to a fundamentalist reading of the Jewish Bible, the Torah. Crown Heights, Brooklyn is the headquarters of a movement which has set up communities in 28 countries. The influence of the Lubavitch is felt worldwide, but most notably in Israel, where Orthodox religious parties would like to achieve a purely religious state. Hasidism began in Eastern Europe in the 18th century and was argued over even then. It attracted thousands to its emotional, mystical worship, but existing orthodoxy opposed it. Hasidic life centers on a charismatic leader known as the Rebbe. The Lubavitch Rebbe is Menachem Mendel Schneerson. He's the seventh in a dynasty which stretches back 200 years. He is revered by his followers as father, guru, king, miracle worker, perhaps even Messiah.
Okay, so that's a little bit of a taste of what is happening with the Lubavitch, and this is what a lot of people believe that controls Donald Trump, because this type of sect of J is what's influencing Netanyahu. And on one of our shows, I showed you a video of one of these rabbis. It was probably this guy right here talking to Netanyahu, saying, look, we've got to bring about the Messiah. We've got to bring about, they call it the Moshiach or whatever they do, but they believe this. They're pushing for this coming of this Messiah, that this should be this religious state, that and it, a lot of these people, like especially these Lubavitch, they aren't the original Semites of that area. They actually hail from Russia. Okay, so there's this weird working to destroy Jesus, Christianity, and bring about this Messiah. And a lot of these type of rabbis, people will say they are the Messiah. They're this false Messiah. Yeah, it was him. Pyramid 7. Yeah, it was him. He had this guy, and he's out of headquarters in New York, in Brooklyn, I believe they said. He is the guy who is pushing a lot of this stuff that we're seeing today. happening in Israel. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to look at this and let you guys know. Judaism, Torah, and Jewish info. I mean, one of the biggest problems is, we got CH.Lubavitch of Utah. Great. It's a Hellenistic dynasty, founded 1775 by Rabbi Zinir Zalman Liado in Lianzo, then in the Russian Empire. So it's from Russia. It takes its name, I already told you that. During the 20th century, its center shifted from Eastern Europe, which is not, that means they are Europeans, they are not Semites. You get this? And my guess is this is probably from that sort of what do they call them? The Khazarian mafia types. That's my guess, that they're from the Khazarian mafia. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're affiliated with Hasidics. Yeah. It went from Eastern Europe because a lot of people were running them out. Same with Hitler was trying to run them out. A lot of people wanted them out of their country. I'm pretty sure Russia would have run them out as well. They're 13% of the global Hasidic population. There's about 90,000 of them. This small group of people are totally coordinating this policy in Israel. You want to talk about that's not even a 1%er. That's like 13% of Hasidic Jews. We're not even counting people who don't believe in this stuff, Jewish people who are secular, who are like, what the hell are you talking about? Like Candace said, these guys were going against the Sabbateans, especially, were going against lots of Jews. Now, these dudes deny the Sabbateans, and I think the Sabbateans came before this stuff out of Russia. So you've got these really cult-like crazies coming out of different Judaic sects or religion, but they're all these kind of not really the original people who lived in Israel. They're all creating this narrative and pulling us into this narrative and using the Holocaust to pump it forward so that they can have their Messiah. And real Jews don't believe that you force it to come. These types believe you can force the Messiah to come. You can do whatever you have to do to make this stuff. Rituals, killings, sex with minors, blowing up other people's children, whatever it is that you have to do, lie, cheat, steal, infiltrate the religion, you do it because you are bringing about the Messiah. But traditionally, that is not what most Jewish people believe at all. They wouldn't believe that. So it's bizarre stuff. We're going to look at a video of this guy who I'm pretty sure he's a Sabbatean. Oh, here we go. We got dude here. We're just going to block the guy. We got dude here going on about the owl. He's like, this is why you only got 10 viewers. I'm like, well, you ain't got any, boy. Moloch worshiper, calling me the Moloch worshiper. Anyways, we're going to go over here and look at, and by the way, the 10 viewers I have, or 13 or 14, you guys know I love you all, and that's what matters. It doesn't matter. We could be Candace. We could have millions of people. It doesn't matter. At least we're not in a hysteria whining about owls. We're not going on about owls being evil because we're not stupid. Now, is that it? Yeah, we want to go here. He's got this kind of Lubavitch kind of guy talking to the rabbi and saying how he used to be a Jew, but now he's a Catholic. And you got to hear this conversation. It's really crazy because it just shows you how they infiltrate things to push their idea that they never ever leave this sort of theology. We'll be nice and we'll call it theology, but let's check this
I'm
out.
a Christian. I'm from a Jewish family. I have become a Christian at the age of 29. And I feel my mission because I believe I'm Catholic today. That I come because I love very much my people. And I do these books so that all the Catholics can know the rules, where they come from. They can know.
If someone was born a Jew, he is a Jew for all his life.
Yes, I know.
And he cannot change it. He can make only his life more complicated.
No, my life is much better today.
Miserable.
My life is not miserable today.
If someone is thinking about his illness, that is a healthy thing, that is only a sign that his illness is more possible and needs a refuah, a garrison, a treatment as soon as possible.
So the guy literally says that the guy literally just says, yeah, I've been a Catholic since I'm 29. And I'm here. I write these books because I'm Jewish originally, probably obviously the sort of Lubavitch Hasidic Jew. So I can tell them basically where it comes from and that they all should do this. He's putting his ideas into Catholicism. And then this guy literally calls, basically he's got a disease or Catholicism disease. You're always a Jew. And he's like, yeah, but I'm really happy. And you're right. But it's such twisted thinking. It's like, okay, so if you're always that, then you're Jewish, then just stay Jewish. To me, that says they convert and it's not authentic. They don't really believe it. They convert so they can tell these Catholics, hey, you're wrong. This is where you come from. This is what you should be worshiping. Because if you believe that foundation and you believe that and you're Jewish, then you would believe that the Messiah hasn't come. Therefore, there's no point in being a Catholic because you have to believe that Jesus is the Messiah. That's literally the principle of it all. So there's this infiltration always happening, and they're, like I said, they believe that they're allowed to do whatever to bring it on, and then they call other people diseased. And you should see, I'm not even gonna get into it. These, I believe, were the people who were caught digging tunnels in New York City with blood-stained mattresses and baby stuff in there and all sorts of twisted stuff. Now, I'm not saying there's no criticism on the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church has been infiltrated and there's some twisted figures. I haven't even gotten to the gray pope. We could talk about the gray pope in the Catholic Church that people are talking about. And Candace clearly outlines that in her video, but you can see this kind of twisted stuff that everybody else is sick. There's like this cognitive dissonance where everybody else is twisted and sick. These Catholics are sick, or these Christians are sick, but we're okay. We're allowed to take over. We're allowed to have the craziest beliefs. We're allowed to abuse children. We're allowed to encourage genocide because everybody else is sick. We're just clearing things out, y'all. We're just clearing things out. And this is this sort of cognitive dissonance where people, when you don't define good and evil and bad practices and being kind to your neighbor, when you don't actually go for the words of Jesus, how you can twist that, distort it, and even become an inversion of it. So that is one element. And these guys deny the other element we're going to talk about, which is the sabotage Zevi. And we've talked about this stuff here on this show. Before. We've talked about sabotage, Zevi, and I believe it's older than this Lubavitch stuff. And I'm pretty sure we can see why they're being run out of different countries, because those stereotypes, they're there for a reason. It's because they believe that they're allowed to do some devious stuff, like Candace says, steal your house, take over. When they first went into Israel as a state, there was a lot of Palestinians that were very hospitable, very kind to them, would let them stay in their houses, and they went and stole all their stuff and basically said, get out, we're taking over, this is ours now. Stole their property. They're allowed to. They're the chosen ones. They're special. They believe that we have animal DNA. Like we have less souls than them. Like what do they have? We have 3 and they have 5 or some level or something like that. They actually believe this stuff. But they don't act like they have 5 souls. They don't act enlightened. They don't act wise. They don't act kind. They don't have all those gracious elements, or at least they're not trying to achieve it. They don't say, oh, I sinned. I did poorly today, but I'm going to try to achieve this. There's a difference when it comes to sin and wickedness. Sin is you made a mistake and you kind of repent it and say, I don't want to do this. This is wickedness. These people are dogs. These people are evil. Let's get rid of them. This is our goal. We'll do any deceptive measure we can. We'll infiltrate. We'll try to, we want this state, which is technically they've created an ethno state over there. We'll just do whatever we have to do. And that is why it's Antichrist, because it's the opposite of what Christ would teach. And the church, the Catholic Church itself, like I've already said, is not without criticism of doing the opposite of what Christ would teach. All right, so we got to go to some videos. I think we got to go to some more videos here because
he is revered by his followers as father.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to put the link for you guys. I thought I set this stream up so that people would have to be subscribed to leave a comment for a while. I'm going to have to make it so that people have to be subscribed for like half an hour at least. All right, so there we go. We've got the copy. You guys can watch that full one on the Rebbe and all that stuff. I just showed you a few minutes of it. We're going to now share the video. Are we? All right, here we go. We're actually going to share an article. We got some good ones here. And this article here is the essence of Zionism, because this ties in Zionism, Sabbatai, Zevi. They all tie in because it's like they all think they're different, but they're all trying to achieve the same thing. They're all tying into this sort of one world order, create this state, take over the world, lie, cheat, steal, invert things, give them the wrong information, and then treat them like they're dogs, kind of thing. They all think they're different, yet they're not. So, of course, we said before, Sabbatai Zevi, who created Sabbateanism, was a 17th century Kabbalist who famously declared himself the Jewish Messiah. So most other Jewish sects say, ain't happening, bro. CH.Lubavitch officially rejects him, as tells him he's a false Messiah. But then they've got this rabbi that they're calling the possible Messiah. So, check that out. Okay, Zevi's followers continue to revere him as the Messiah even after his apostasy and death. I think he converted as a Muslim, and he tried to even trick Christians. Like, the guy is kind of a charlatan. He's just jumping, and he'll say what he wants to say to infiltrate. And so there's a lot of people who are basing what they do on this sort of Sabbateanism, as you heard Candace talk about, Sigmund Freud just being one of them. And there's that idea that, yeah, they even torture their own children. In fact, I don't know how to say this without getting banned, without getting in trouble, but there's a lot of court cases. Candace was mentioning it, coming up about abuse on the children, where there's these rabbis sexually abusing young boys and being caught, RAP, young boys and everything. And because they think if they do it before a certain age that it's okay. Like, I think it's before 3 or something like that. And there's just like, the people it's becoming such a problem in this community. This sort of, the Sabbatean, the Lubavitches, child abuse is becoming such a problem that these churches, these court systems are having to deal with it, because they're not even just perpetuating it on other people, they're perpetuating it on their own children, which is more twisted. So this is Alexander Dugin, March 6, 2026. I'll give you guys this whole article if you want to go check it out. He's talking about the essence of Zionism. And let's share this article actually. Let's pop it up. But I gave you guys the link if you want to read it in full. So he writes, in the modern world, the Middle East remains the epicenter of geopolitical conflicts where the interests of various forces intersect. So, like I said, everything's coming to this one point. Sorry, I just whacked my microphone. It's Islam, Judaism, global powers, all drawn to Zionism as a state ideology of Israel, which, in the view of many analysts, carries an eschatological dimension linked to the end of times. So we got it. All these people are converging into the unification of one, I guess. It's all in the Middle East. Maybe that's why we should stay over here. Judaism as a religion is tied to the ideas that Jews are the chosen people, primarily in a religious sense, because this people was chosen to remain faithful to the one God at a time where other nations, according to Judaism, had departed from this monotheism. And they're awaiting the Messiah who will be crowned King of Israel. That's why they have that crown on their flag. Messiah means anointed. Let's keep going down. Okay, here we go. To understand. Okay, so it says, in principle, the most consistent representatives of this Jewish approach are certain fundamentalists from the Neutira Karta movement who say something like, our Jewish God commanded us to endure the hardships of exile, which they were never exiled. This is the false narrative. They were never exiled because they never lived there. They're Europeans. Most of these people are European Jews. So they have this story, this hysteria that just doesn't exist. They rely on the fact that the Talmud contains clear prohibition against a mass return to Palestine before the coming of the Messiah. So if the Messiah hasn't come, what are they doing there, right? Like they're trying to make it happen. The Talmud prohibits it and firmly asserts it. So they're not supposed to be forcing the Messiah. They're not supposed to be there, according to the Talmud, until the Messiah comes. But they're like, nah, let's just go in. We're going to make that Messiah come. We're going to take over anyways because we want it to happen. They're not even going with their shizzle that they originally made up. Okay, so here's a question. How then was the state of Israel created when apparently the Messiah has still not come? Okay, let's understand this. Let's go here, guys. To understand how it happened, that the modern Israeli state stands a complete contradiction to Jewish religion in its orthodoxy. So let's go to Sabbatai Zevi. Sabbatai Zevi said he's the Messiah. So they're like, hey, here he is. Let's go. I'm serious. And this guy actually converted to Islam for a time as well, if I'm not mistaken. So now they have the right to go, okay? He met a tragic end when he arrived before the Ottoman. This is Sabbatai. Demanding that Palestine be handed over to him as the Messiah. The Ottomans said, I have another proposal for you. If you continue spouting this nonsense, I will cut off your head. But if you want to survive, immediately accept Islam. So, of course, Sabbatai said, sure. He was spared. But what a blow to the Jewish community that was already prepared to embrace Sabbateanism. It was rejected by Orthodox Judaism, but it did not disappear and continued to spread among the Ashkenazi Jews in Eastern Europe. And the Ashkenazis are Europeans. They are not Semites. They are not from the Middle East. They never were. So they adapted it to make them feel special. They were like, hey, look, we already got our Messiah. Let's go. And that's probably why people were like, hey, let's get rid of these people because they're kind of crazy. Okay. The movement lacked eschatological and messianic orientation. Oh, and so Hasidism, these Lubavitch guys kind of came out of the Sabbateanism. So they're all intricately connected. And so then let's go into this for you guys. They didn't have the same core as, say, the Orthodox Jewish, the Talmud, but they adapted Kabbalah. Okay, the Sabbateans were like, hey, let's do the Kabbalah. It can be studied by elderly rabbis who had mastered all other forms of Talmudic learning. Apparently, Madonna gets to practice it too, though. Madonna and Roseanne get to practice Kabbalah. They're out there going, hey. But what happened to some Sabbatean sects? A theory emerged that Sabbatai Zevi was the true Messiah. He only went to Islam because he committed a sacred betrayal. But what's the betrayal? An entire theology of sacred betrayal developed, asserting that Jews could renounce their faith and outwardly enter another religion, but only for appearance, in order to undermine it from within while secretly continuing to profess Judaism. There's the infiltration, guys. It came from Sabbatai, Zevi, because he converted. They had to do some repairing of the cognitive dissonance, that he basically trashed them, dissed them, said, yeah, I'm out. I'll be Islamic to save my head. So they came up with this inversion idea, and it's what propelled them to go forth like this guy who's become a Catholic and say, hey, now we've got to be like Sabbatai. So the Sabbatean Jacob Frank converted to Catholicism. He's right there, Jacob Frank. He infiltrated Catholicism. Moreover, he supplied Catholic censors with so-called evidence of blood libel, the legend that Jews eat Christian infants. He insisted on this as a converted Jew himself and provided irrefutable evidence. It was all made up. The Christian blood libel, they just make shit up. Frank completely abandoned all forms of Talmudism and renounced his faith, betraying his core Galatianist, yet he had justification. The secret doctrine of Frank, like that of Sabbatai Zevi, claimed that after the 17th century, the very concept of the Messiah had changed. Now the Messiah is the Jew themselves. There's no need to wait for this Messiah, because the Jews are the Messiah. See how they keep moving the goalposts? They're like, the Jews are the Messiah. We're already here. It doesn't matter. We are it, so we can take over. You see where this is going, guys? You see where this is going? This is so crazy. So if a Jew betrays his religion, he still remains holy because he is holiness itself, because he's a Jew. Like, talk about trying to get around the fact that a lot of these people were just devious psychopaths. It's like saying that you're Jesus, or somebody saying they're the rebirth of Napoleon, and they keep weaving things because none of it makes sense, because they can't accept that they're just Sabbatai Zevi. So the essence of Zionism lies in being a kind of Jewish Satanism, not the Satanism that we see today. Its classical Orthodox Judaism insists that the meaning of Jewish existence is dispersion. It consists in the awaiting of the Messiah. But now the Jews are the Messiah. They are the holy people. So there you go. That is the root of what we're having here. It's basically a shift, cognitive dissonance, moving the goalposts so they can basically back up what they're going to do, which is take over the Holy Land, I guess, eventually. And then they can say, hey, let's go and infiltrate all these other religions. It's okay for us to do it now. We can do it. It's not a sin because we are the holy essence, so it doesn't matter. So now they don't even have to necessarily even stick to the Talmud. They can just do what they want it. So this explains the fundamental feature of modern Zionism, which relies not only on Israel, but a vast number of secular, liberal, atheist, communists, capitalists, Christian Jews, Protestant Jews, Catholic Jews, Orthodox Jews, with one big Muslim Jews, Hare Krishna Jews. Like, it's one big clusterfuck. And they're just a network of generalized Frankism. And it's this satanic stuff. And remember, at the root of Frankism is this idea that enlightenment with the Kabbalah is achieved through doing the most depraved acts onto others, especially children. That is why they can say, hey, we can do this to 3-year-olds. It's all good. Because we're the enlightened, special, chosen one. Do you see where this is going? It's somewhere absolutely crazy. So that's I'm going to let you guys read this yourself. It goes out there. I mean, it's a long one. It keeps going. So you can check it out, but he explains that core element of the satanic nature of Zionism, and why when the Lubavitch denies the Sabbateans, they're all the same shit. They're all just shitting in a bucket, and these people who don't want to stick to their original doctrine. They don't want to wait. They want to be the special ones. They want the Messiah to come. They want to make sure it's right. So they just kind of move the goalposts and, cheat and scam and, make sure it happens. It's like one system for you, another system for me. And it's quite phenomenal. It's quite phenomenal how you humans will trick themselves. And I think it's because being a good person and holding the mirror up to yourself when you're a narcissist is really difficult. And it is. It's easier to say, but I'm special. That's why I can do this stuff. And then we've got another article here that's saying the Sabbatean syndrome, the the messianic idea, and Zionism. I'm just going to read quickly here what that says. It's basically he's proposing a methodological and historiographic perspective that trends analysis. The perspective challenges the crisis orientation that has dominated Zionist historiography and examines the roots of Zionism that are integral in the Sephardic diaspora. The purpose, conscious or otherwise, of Zionist history that detaches the 16th from the 19th century is to ensure that the mighty process of the return to the Jewish homeland is attributed exclusively to Zionism of the modern era. This ignores all the momentous accomplishments of 16th century that heralded a new age in settlement of Eretz Israel. So basically, they're the special people. They are going to bring this about, whether you like it or not. And there's multiple different sects. They're all saying the same thing, trying to use different words. It's like having all these different Christian sects trying to say the same thing and tweaking it. And you got your Baptists and your Mormons, and it's just nuts. Psych Sonic says, do you ever wonder if some people just need to spend more time in the sun? I think these people need to have families and be healthy. They're obviously coming from some pretty twisted backgrounds. They've got personality disorders. I bet you if we analyze them today, we'd be like, wow, that is a dark triad narcissism, and when the minute he comes up against anyone with power, that's it. And I'm sure these Zionists are like, hey, let's they probably have learned to hate Islam because Sabbatai was like, hey, I'm going to convert to save my head. And they're still like butthurt about that one. They're still super butthurt about that one. It is absolutely phenomenal. Oh, I forgot to show you guys this video about Elite's control system. It's a really good one to actually go over, so we might go over it. But that just explains what's going on in a nutshell with this satanic, crazy, antichrist, anti-good, let's slaughter everything, all converging in that Middle Eastern area. And it starts with these basically weird later converts to Judaism that happen in Europe. All this shit's happening in Europe. They just can't stop. And then so Judaism fractures. Christianity starts fracturing. It's literally narcissism. Now where are we going to go from here? Sometimes it's such a clusterfuck that I'm always standing there going, well, where do we go? What do we do? I really want to look at this video that talks about how they control our minds. So we're going to go there, and then we're going to go into solutions. Like, what can we do with this crazy stuff? Because it ties into everybody thinks this is a special land. They think this is some special place, and they have these inverted ideas of goodness and inverted ideas of community, and they see all themselves as special. And it seems like a lot of people are playing parts, but they may be tied into this sort of Sabbatean, Zionist, Lubavitch nature, and they're all pretending to be Christian or German. They're pretending to be something they're not. And it's so convoluted. It's not always easy to parse it out and say, yes, this is how it is 100%. But I think we have some major players going on here that are all hiding and pretending either to be Christian or American or just to be a tech bro, or but they're all being influenced by these. It's like Owen Benjamin said, like, where's the origin? It's like a hive mind. It's contagious, right? And clearly these elites are all being ruled by this one idea, which is to get to that holy land and put everything under this one law. And it is rather satanic because it actually attacks that whole energy of Christ. Even the Gnostics get a little crazy. Even the Gnostics get a little crazy. And they come up with all sorts of convoluted ideas and, well, maybe this, maybe that. There's no coherence. There's no be good. There's redemption. Do good things. There's one way to God. There's not 500 gods. That's like having 500 personalities, like it's all a crazy inversion. But I'm going to backtrack. We're going to go back here because I think this is important to actually say, why do these people want to control us? What's the need? And Professor Zhang does a really good concept of this. And then we're going to go into solutions. We're going to talk about how it's all fake, how it's all a spectacle, how it is all designed to pull us into this fake narrative that they have. It is a fake narrative that they're these chosen ones. They were kicked out of the land. I mean, they were just later converts. And we're being pulled into their crazy. And they've written it as actual factual history. And it's just not actual factual history. It's their fantasy story. We might as well be reenacting Star Wars at this point. We might as well be reenacting Star Wars. We don't want video share yet. We want screen share. Okay, so English elites, hive mind occult. Why do they want us in a hive mind? Why do they control us? Why is it cultism? This can apply to all of these groups out there, whether it's Sabbateans, Lubavitch, English elites, Scientology, you pick one. And I bet you this control theory kind of applies to all of them, but I just really wanted to go over this and I forgot about it early on. Let's go back to the beginning. I don't think we're going to listen to, oh yeah.
So the question then is, why are these people making this effort to fool us into believing that this wall, these movies are real? And the answer is because they're trying to enslave us. Okay? Slavery. But then you're like, okay, but slavery means that I take a gun and I say, if you don't do what I say, I'll kill you. But that's not what slavery is. If the universe is conscious, okay, our energy comes from our attention. Attention is energy. So what they want is our energy. Okay? That's true wealth. If they're able to focus our energy, capture our imagination, they can construct reality in the way that they want it. Okay? Because reality is what we imagine it to be. The imagination is the animating force of the universe. Right? So if they can focus our attention, for us, they can create their own reality. Alright? Now we understand why we watch movies. Now we understand why we have the internet. Now we understand why the school wants you to love artificial intelligence. Because it's to enslave you. It's all of human history is about enslavement. Okay? That's what progress is. You think that, oh my God, I can now watch movies. Oh my God, I have now social media. I can communicate with anyone. Oh my God, I have ChatGPT. And ChatGPT can tell me the truth about the world. No. All of these things are created to enslave your mind. Because you have access to God. And so what they're trying to do is trick you into believing that this reality is a true reality. Because once you believe that, this reality becomes the only reality. Okay? So the question is like, who are these people? Well, we don't know, okay? So
well, we don't know. We don't know who they are. We know they're out there. It's like a hive. So it's really hard to define an individual because it's a hive of people. There could be queen bees, there could be crazy rabbis, but they're all interconnected, and they want you like the like Bibi Netanyahu. He wants you pulled into that storyline. That's why he bought TikTok. That's why he owns a lot of this stuff. Professor Zhang, I don't know. He could be influenced by Xi Jinping for all I know. But they want you pulled into this world of leaders, of icons, because they don't want you communicating to a source of creativity. They don't want you having access to that. They want to use your energy for their projects, their issue, their wars, their murder, they want to use your children for satanic rituals, for their experiments. They have their weird, creepy, evil gods that they sacrifice things to. And that's what he's getting at. And Psyche Sonic, totally true. Star Wars would be way more fun if we were going through Star Wars than this stuff. Maybe, I don't know. It's pretty scary. I wouldn't want a Death Star floating out there. You never know. That could be their goal, is to have a Death Star wrapping around the universe. You never know. These guys are already copying Lord of the Rings. So what's going to stop someone from being like, hey, y'all, we need a Death Star? But they already got killer lasers and weapons of mass destruction and using weather as a weapon. I mean, a Death Star's next. They can just fry our brains from a distance. So why not a Death Star? I think don't give them any ideas. They probably already have it as an idea. That's probably why they wrote Star Wars and funded it and put it out there in the first place. So there you go. But now it's about, okay, well, what can we do? Like, this is so dark, Melissa. And despair is not what you should do, because despair, you're always warned about despairing in the Bible, because despairing is contagious too, and it passes on to other people. And when you despair, you kind of bring everything down. So we're going to go through some videos here. Owen Benjamin did a really good interview. He's a really smart guy. He did a really good interview, and Tucker had him on, which is like interesting that Tucker had him on, because he was seriously banned. I think, was it 2017? He was banned on all platforms and demonetized. And so he experienced being kicked out of this system. Being kicked out of the beast system, the antichrist system, the crazy money system, the merch. And he had to create his own life. And he was in Hollywood, by the way. He was in Hollywood, and he started to point out things that Hollywood people didn't like. So he got kicked out of the system, and he had to make things work. Now, not all of us are going to be Owen Benjamin and have the same scenario set up, but there's hurdles and you can pass them. And he kind of talks about some things. So we got a couple of videos here that we're going to go over before we tie this show up. I'm taking longer than the 2 hours that I intended to take. Sorry, guys. I think, is it this one? No, it's this one here. He talks about his child and
start pacing. I'm stressed, blah, blah, blah. And yeah. And I dude, I prayed.
The threat of having your children taken away. I mean, come on.
I still remember that prayer. I actually was on my knees, like praying, like, and the prayer was like, just give me the strength. And my wife just kept going, but you're a good father. And I'm like, I know, but like, what if, and she just kept going, but you're a good father. And I'm like, but if they, and then I just started believing, I'm like, and then I realized that I'm just here to take care of my kids. Dude, this is when stuff gets intense. I'm like, they're gods, right? I'm like, I'm honored to be their caretaker while I'm here. And I was freed from that spell, because I was like, I'm the one who provides and protects.
Yes.
Right? And so every time these things, like these horrifying things kept happening, I'm like, oh my God, like it's all, and then it again just went away. And they were like, oh, we're really sorry. Because what happens is my fear could have triggered more and more and more.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's why Jesus kept saying, don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Because like, hey, why are you here? Who sent you? Blah, 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 you know? Like then it's like, oh, he's very hostile acting, blah, 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 right? And so those illusions, spells, and that's why I'm like, and the more I learned, the more I was like, I want to show this to people, because when you're given stuff like gifts and stuff, you have to be like, how can I like, because I see so many people falling for this stuff. And I'm like, this is how they do it. It's all perception management, like Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz was such a truth drop. It's all about, I think it's about the dollar.
What does that mean?
Like follow the yellow brick road to the green place where the wizard is lying. It's a golden road, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the original slippers were silver. You click the silver slippers and you go back to Kansas. Meanwhile, the greenback is like, raw, and it's really just an old grabbler behind a little curtain. And then when he's like, here, you're smart, here's a square for your head. And it shows you how they do it. It's all the approval. Like, you're brave, here's a medal. Like, that world is of like these little trinkets that make you think you're proud or you're brave, but it's like, oh, now I'm brave. It's like, no, that it was like such a truther movie. And then it inflates the balloon. Inflation takes him away. And he's like,
Okay, so that was him. He kind of goes off on these tangents. It's like, does it make sense? But it doesn't make sense. This idea of that you can't despair because you feed it. So he was reported into Child Protective Services, but from just jerks who were, trying to keep attacking him, even though he's a really good father. And he was like, I got to let it go, because if you act all crazy, if you act like all angry and agitated to Child Protective Service, you just make more of it. And then they start getting suspicious, right? So, he's telling you how it's all an illusion and they lure you in, and they're kind of just little people, behind the scenes. They're not as horrific as you think, and that we're really in control. And then he goes on to talk about the solution and community and how we can get beyond being controlled by these people. We just have to pull out of the speculative crazy world, the crazy narratives that they put us in with films and that they put us in with their rituals. And the even watching the royal family doing their stuff, they're pulling you into a speculative place where you worship them and you're begging for reinforcement, like, oh, please give me my award, please give me my A grade. If you don't give me an A, I'm going to be a loser. And it becomes more about getting the grade than it's about having the experience of life, having, learning something real or grown as a person. Right. And that's the speculative that we're pulled in, and it's very competitive, right? It doesn't help each other. It doesn't grow things. And so we're going to go to this last video where he talks about community solutions and no despair. We can't despair. Not happening. We're going to go into this one here. Here we go.
What responses feed the spell, feed the evil?
Despair. That's why I can get intense about, like, I don't have anything personally against Nick Fuentes. It's like, don't spread despair, because that creates the environment for the spells. It's like, you want to get rid of mice, cover the feed. You're not going to get all the mice.
Right.
Like, be as responsible as you can, get in control of your emotions, like create a family, like have purpose, be grateful, and then it doesn't work. It's like if you go to Vegas and people are handing out strip club things, like, and you're like you'll feel that way about everything once you get like that thing that you don't want to lose. You know what I mean? It doesn't work on you.
So,
because remember, he talks about real currency being your time, your energy, your mind, and so does Zhang. They talk about that, your mind, and that's why you need to put it in good things. Family, your growing food, whatever. And then when you're so sort of kind of saturated with that goodness of your family and everything that matters, when you come up against things like hookers in Vegas, you're like, yeah, what the fuck? That you recognize it for what it is. You recognize the speculative stuff for what it is more. You recognize that stuff for what it is, and all these satanic people and all of this ritual and nonsense on TV. You start recognizing it. Oh, this is Satan talking here. This is Luciferianism. So we'll continue here.
So feeling despair, feeling defeated, feeling hopeless.
Yeah, I mean, it's Sun Tzu. It's like, if you get your enemy to like think they already lost, you win. Think about it. We are the lion thinking that we're a mouse.
Yes.
And it's like, that's how you beat it, someone. That's the wizard thing. It's like convincing the one making the dome, right? Like that he's the bad guy, that's hate. Like, and dude, the craziest thing is when people internalize it, it's so sad. Because I've done that, where I'm like, am I hurting people?
Yes, I've had the same thought.
And I've really, it was funny. I asked my wife, because these people are like, you're a narcissist. You're not, because I wouldn't comply, right? Like, you're selfish. You're selfish. And I'm like, don't they know if I do that, it makes everything worse? But I asked my wife, I'm like, am I a narcissist? And she's like, if you ask the question, you're not one. So I wrote a joke. I was like, I spent all day wondering if I'm self-absorbed, right? It's like, and so like, if you're worried about being a narcissist, like, you're not one. But the people that usually internalize that are the ones that like aren't. The narcissists would never call themselves that.
No, it wouldn't even occur.
No.
Because they block any. I mean, narcissism is always about protecting some wound internally.
Yeah, they can never admit they're wrong because something way early on they just got annihilated for that.
Because they hate themselves. And
Yeah, they hate themselves. Yeah, that's why these kind of Sabbatian, they keep changing the narratives because they can't admit, hey, I was wrong. Maybe we got duped by Zevi and he's just a jerk. We've got to form something around that to cope. Like, we got to cope. All this shit is one giant coping mechanism because they want to bring back this Machia or whatever the hell they call it. And so he's telling you like don't despair, get out, do real things. And he also in that interview talks about community and knowing your neighbors, because when you're in a city, you kind of like don't want to, you get overwhelmed. There's too many people. It's too much. But when you're out, I don't know, in small towns or on a rural land, you do want to know your neighbor because you got to kind of all connect and help each other out. It's about helping each other out to survive the winter, basically. And you get back to what is real: family, growing food. That's real. And we're so disconnected from it. And the system has disconnected us from it. So we become dependent on this false system, on this kind of satanic thing where we're constantly pushing for war, this crazy fantasy narrative that they have to go and bring about some Messiah over in the land, and Israel is important. Israel is important. The reason it's important because it's trade-wise strategically important. And for many of them, that's what it is. But for many of them, it's this religious narrative. And they want to take over everything. And then you've got these tech bros, Elon Musk. These guys aren't even real. They're like demonic. They live in a fantasy world of video games. They have children, but they literally have a harem of women. They just see it as, oh, if you want to, it's important to have population. So if you want to do that, just keep impregnating woman after woman. They never start wholesome, healthy families where they get something from it because they're psychopaths. Like, there's something missing in their soul, in their mind, in their heart. And these guys are all the leaders of Luciferianism because it's anti-mother, father, child. It's anti the land. It's anti what makes people happy. It's all against that kind of concept of being good, love thy neighbor. It's all against that. It's blow them up, kill them, accuse them of what you're doing, false flags, psyops, torture people, torture children, traffic children, pretend to be some sort of pious puritanism. Meanwhile, you're trafficking and selling drugs and arms and booze and hookers, like just really crazy stuff, because they can't just settle down and get into the mindset of just be happy with reality. Just stay with reality. Everything doesn't have to be in that speculative, keeping your mind busy. And Lucas will say, good line. I like this one. One of the biggest weapons of the enemy is weapons of mass distraction, killing life 1 minute at a time. That's right. Pulling you in. Lucas says, I admit I'm wrong all the time. It's therapeutic, allows me to grow and be better. And then you let it go. Like, okay, I made a mistake. Like with Trump, I was like, okay. I started seeing Trump early on, like in 2023, 2024. I'm like, okay, this is not, it's like when you have your values in place, these narcissists can mimic it. And Trump mimicked a lot of values, right? He mimicked a lot of people, but there were signs that he wasn't going to hold them up. And so when someone doesn't line up with what they said and they voted for, you can stand against them. If you're an NBC, if you are in a cult and you're controlled, you won't stand against it. You'll weave with this leader. You'll weave with the Antichrist. You'll weave with all these groups. And you won't say, nah, sorry, sabotage Zevi, he's a scammer. And there's some who do. There's a lot of Jewish people are like, that's crazy, because it is. If you're really weak and you're pulled into that and you can't let go of it, you'll just keep weaving and making stuff up, and the cognitive dissonance will become crazy. So that next thing you know, there's this giant cult of crazy trying to take over the world and do Zionism. It's when you don't tell the truth, when you don't say, hey, that person is lying, that this is not what they said. And of course, the speculative stuff will always keep you weaving, and they trip over their own lies. They lie so much, I don't even think they know. They're probably going to build a data center to keep track of their lies, so it helps them, you know, like it's like it helps them keep the soap opera narrative in check so they don't look so stupid. I bet you that that's what they should do. Anyways, guys, I'm kind of rambled on for long enough. I don't know if there's definitely going to be a show next Sunday. We're going to be talking all about Dracula. I'm going to be very busy doing a lot of steam cleaning and gardening stuff this week. So we'll see if I can get one out midweek. I don't know. There'll definitely be one for the subscribers. And remember, thumbs up, subscribe. You can go to the website, theclusterfuck.com. You can also become a member for as little as $2.99 a month. And at $5.99, you get extra episodes all the time. She says, I don't know what to say about this anymore. Like, what can you say, DA? What can you say but go out there and get with reality and not get pulled in? Not getting pulled in. I think it's meant to be crazy. I think it's meant to be crazy to make you crazy. And that's why with Owen Benjamin, when he bought his own plot of land and started doing real stuff and working on your yard and stuff, he found peace. He found happiness, right? The happiness wasn't in all the money. It's a trap. The happiness wasn't in making big money and being the big talker and betraying your own soul so you could get a contract. The happiness wasn't in Hollywood. The happiness was in the home. Happiness is in the home. You know what they say? It was in reality, in his children, in his wife, and connecting authentically with people. That's where the happiness was. So at that, I really do have to go. My dogs, they're saying, hey, we ain't happy. You got to let us out. And I will see you guys next week. I'll announce all the shows. So subscribe to the Clusterfuck 101. That's the handle. And I will see you soon.